Hey guys, it's Hayden again here making another video. What I want to talk about today is forgiveness. So in our culture there's not a lot of tools that they give us to deal with emotional trauma, emotional baggage, and emotional just hard things that happen in our life. They teach us how to do math, they teach us science and stuff. But it's very rare that we're given the tools at an early age to be able to deal and cope with the things that happen to us in life. One of those things that isn't taught to us is forgiveness, and that applies to both the self and to other people. There's a lot of things that happen to us in our life. There isn't a single person out there who doesn't have some kind of challenge or some kind of difficulty that they've had that they're still trying to process and integrate and understand for themselves and find meaning of what happened. And part of that process is very painful. Part of it, we blame ourselves for things. We blame others for things. And regardless of who we blame, that pain ends up falling back on us. There's no way to blame somebody without feeling some kind of tension in the body or some kind of negative feeling that doesn't make us feel good. So part of forgiveness is letting some of that stuff go. But forgiveness is something that it's not so much something that's intellectual as it is something that is a feeling that you create for yourself. Part of it is letting go of the story. Part of it is letting go of some of that stuff. But a lot of it is creating a different state of being than you had before. So let me, I guess, give an example of that. If you're scared of something, for example, and you're trying to not be afraid of it, but the way you go about doing it is you continue to just hide away and stay away from that fear and not actually move towards it and work on changing your relationship towards that state, towards your fear. You're continuously going to stay in a state of fear because you're not actually changing the way you process that fear. So as you interact with it more, you can recondition yourself so you're no longer afraid of that fear. And that goes the same with pretty much anything you're trying to change in your life as far as emotions go, or even as far as thoughts go, because thoughts are tied to emotions. You have to have at some point a change in the way you feel. So what I think is really, really powerful is to begin by changing the feeling you have towards whatever you're holding on to. So for example, if you have something sort of traumatic that has happened to you, whether you were bullied or people didn't believe in you, and so you have this feeling of doubt, and you kind of blame them for the doubt that you feel within yourself. Just think about that and hold that in your mind, and then change that relationship to it by changing your state. So by generating a more forgiving state within you. And so, excuse me, as you do that, as you actually feel forgiveness, as you feel that change, that shift, and it might not happen very quickly, you might slowly be able to move up in the amount of forgiveness you can feel, but it's actually initiating that change of physical feeling in the body, that emotional feeling. And so you build up that feeling of forgiveness, and as you begin to do that, the weight or the burden of that experience or that thing you're holding on to starts to change. The relationship to it starts to change. And so what ends up happening is that you you see it differently because you're in a different state of consciousness. Einstein said that, and I'm paraphrasing his quote here, that no problems can be changed in the same, can be resolved in the same state of consciousness that it was created. So that means we have to change our state of consciousness to resolve the issues that have been created by the other state of consciousness. And the only way to do that is to consciously shift the way you are orienting yourself towards that problem. And that's what we're doing. That's creating that forgiveness feeling within yourself. You're not gonna be able to forgive people by just thinking about forgiveness. It's gonna have to come at an emotional level at some point. Because that really is that's where all the stories come from, are those feelings, those pains, those joys. Those are the backbone, so to speak, of the stories. The stories are just the expression of what that is, but the pain is the source of where those problems are coming from. So if you start to emotionally feel forgiveness towards those people, you're going to start to feel liberated, you're going to start to feel open, you're going to start to feel like you're not bound down by those problems anymore, and you're actually going to be able to make choices instead of having an impulsive reaction where you're immediately sort of fighting back if something comes up, or you feel like sort of hostility towards that person. You might still have that sort of reaction that comes up, but since you have that state of forgiveness that you've been working on, you're going to be able to react in that situation differently because you've created some space from that burden that you've been holding. And as you move more into forgiveness, as you move closer and closer to that forgiveness state in yourself, that reaction, that gut response that you have isn't going to be quite as strong. And so that's something that you can do with anything. You can use that with forgiveness, you can use that with love, you can use that with confidence. It's all about creating that feeling within yourself, because it's not going to change. The state isn't going to change unless you change the state. So it's a matter of actually feeling different, and you can choose how you feel. Not all the time, because you can't constantly be changing the way you feel throughout the day, because that's, you have other things to worry about. We're working on the subconscious programming right now when we do that. So you can have a practice maybe a few times a day where you check in and you're like, oh, how am I feeling? Let's change this state to a more loving state. And so you connect with love for a little bit. And as you connect with that, it'll reinforce that connection. And eventually you'll start to feel more loving, more loving, more loving. Sometimes it'll be hard to connect with that state because you're either tired, maybe you're hungry, you're just not, like you're having a day where you just feel kind of off, and that's okay. It's realizing that you're feeling a little bit differently that day and not being hard on yourself because you can't connect with it, but just making the conscious choice to recognize that that's the way you're feeling, and that, maybe not today, that you can't connect with it. Maybe still try to connect with it, but knowing that it's okay that some days you can't, reach that level that you're looking for. And that's just how things go. That's how progress goes. That's how things happen. It's not perfect every day. So that's sort of what I think. Well, I think that's how changing your state and changing your consciousness works. And especially, I talked about forgiveness, so especially regarding forgiveness. So I hope that you enjoyed what I talked about in this video, and I hope that you're able to feel more forgiveness and love in your life. And if you liked what I talked about in this video, then feel free to like or comment below. And if you'd like to see more videos that I make, then feel free to subscribe to my channel, Informal Inquiry, and you can check out more videos that I've made there. And as always, make sure to take time for yourself and to seek your truth.